Almost 3 years into his presidency, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has moved from appearing vulnerable and embattled to looking, at least from the outside, like a man firmly in command of the Nigerian state. In the early days of his administration, the signs were anything but reassuring. He came into office under the shadow of a disputed election, rising public anger, worsening insecurity, and an economy already weakened by years of drift and incompetence. At the time, many believed his presidency could stumble under the sheer weight of these accumulated contradictions. Yet, politics, especially Nigerian politics, is rarely kind to first impressions. Tinubu may not have transformed Nigeria into an economic miracle, and he certainly has not delivered relief to millions of suffering citizens, but he has done enough in the eyes of powerful international financial circles to alter the global conversation around his government. His economic policies, harsh and destabilizing as they have been for ordinary Nigerians, have been welcomed in elite policy and investor circles as the kind of painful restructuring Nigeria supposedly needed. That is the paradox at the center of the Tinubu presidency. International observers see adjustment, discipline and reform signals. Nigerians on the street see hunger, collapsing purchasing power, rising costs, and an everyday existence that feels more punishing than at any point in recent memory. This is where the real fault line lies. The presidency has benefited from improved macroeconomic optics. External reserves have strengthened. The naira, after a shocking dislocation, has shown periods of relative stability. Oil production has also improved, compared with some of the worst years of disruption. On paper, these are the kinds of indicators that allow policy elites to say the country is regaining balance. But numbers in briefing rooms do not automatically translate into food in markets, stability in homes, or dignity in the lives of citizens. For the average Nigerian family, the economy is not something measured by reserve figures or policy jargon. It is measured by the price of rice, transport fares, school fees, rent, and whether income still has any meaning by the end of the month. By that measure, the patient is still in pain, no matter how optimistic the doctors may sound. Tinubu's defenders will argue that deep structural problems cannot be solved without bitter measures. They will say he inherited a broken system and simply chose not to postpone the inevitable. There is some truth in that. Nigeria did not arrive at this crisis overnight, and many of the distortions he moved against were created by years of political cowardice and elite self-preservation. But it is also true that the burden of these so-called reforms has been placed overwhelmingly on the backs of those least able to carry it. The wealthy have adjusted, the political class continues to feed, the ruling network remains insulated. It is the poor, the struggling middle class, and small businesses that have been thrown into a ruthless survival complex. On security, the administration has been eager to project progress, especially in the Niger Delta, where a measure of calm has returned and oil output has benefited from a more stable environment. But even here, the story is not as straightforward as official triumphalism would suggest. Peace in the Niger Delta did not begin with Tinubu. The roots of the current relative quiet stretch back many years and are tied to previous political settlements, amnesty arrangements, and the continued management of armed interests through networks of patronage and accommodation. What Tinubu appears to have done effectively is to make use of old political channels and personal influence to sustain a fragile arrangement. That may be politically clever, but it is not the same as solving the underlying crisis. Outside the Delta, the broader national security picture remains deeply troubling. Armed violence, insurgency, banditry, and jihadist terror continue to haunt large parts of northern and central Nigeria. Communities are still attacked. Rural populations still live with fear as a permanent condition. The military remains stretched, often reactive rather than dominant. The result to foreign military cooperation underlines not strength but desperation. It confirms that the Nigerian state still lacks the internal capacity to decisively secure its own territory. That alone should temper any premature celebration. Where Tinubu has been most effective, perhaps even ruthlessly effective, is not in transforming the economy or ending insecurity, but in consolidating political power. This is the area in which his genius is least debatable. He has shown once again that he understands Nigerian power better than most of his rivals ever did. He is a coalition builder, a system manager, and an operator who knows how to fuse regional interests, patronage, elite ambition, and party machinery into one functioning structure. He fought his way to the presidency through a hostile and uncertain terrain, and having secured victory, he has moved swiftly to weaken, divide, and absorb the opposition. That process is now one of the most consequential features of his role. Opposition figures have been neutralized, rival parties weakened, and defectors drawn steadily into the ruling fold. The result is that Nigerian democracy is beginning to look less like a competitive contest of ideas and more like a power arrangement orbiting a single dominant machine. This is dangerous, not merely because it threatens pluralism, but because it breeds arrogance, impunity, and the illusion that political success equals national progress. A presidency that becomes too comfortable in its own invincibility often stops listening. Once that happens, the distance between state power and popular reality widens dangerously. And yet, beneath this formidable surface, Tinubu's political architecture may contain a serious weakness. That weakness lies in the north. No matter how much control he has accumulated in Abuja, no matter how effectively he has humbled sections of the opposition, the northern political mood remains a critical variable he cannot ignore. There is growing dissatisfaction across the region, and it is rooted in both perception and lived reality. First, there is a complaint that key appointments in the administration have tilted excessively towards Tinubu's ethnic and political base. Whether every individual accusation is fair or not is almost beside the point. In Nigerian politics, perception often carries as much force as fact. Once a region begins to feel used, sidelined, or taken for granted, resentment grows fast. Tinubu needed the North to win. He benefited immensely from that alliance. If many within that bloc now feel excluded from the distribution of power after helping to secure it, then the bond becomes unstable. Second, insecurity remains most severe in the same North, whose support remains crucial to any national power equation. This is not an abstract policy issue. It is daily trauma. If people continue to die, villages continue to empty, and fear continues to shape ordinary life, then all claims of political mastery begin to sound hollow. Add to that the controversy around foreign military involvement, especially suspicions among northern clerical and political constituencies about American intentions, and a new source of agitation emerges. What may look like security cooperation from Abuja can easily be framed in the north as foreign intrusion, strategic dependency, or even betrayal. This is where Tinubu's political brilliance may face its hardest test. He has shown remarkable skill in capturing the state, disciplining the party system, and presenting reformist credentials to the international establishment. But power in Nigeria is never secured by elite choreography alone. Beneath the deals, the alliances, and the headlines lie deeper currents of grievance, identity, religion, region, and survival. Those forces do not disappear because a president has outsmarted his opponents. They wait, they gather, they harden. So what we are witnessing is not the arrival of an unchallengeable emperor, but the rise of a president who has mastered the visible levers of power while still wrestling with the unstable foundations beneath them. Tinubu looks strong because the opposition is fractured, because the global financial class likes what it sees, and because the state machinery is increasingly bending to his will. But strength in Nigeria is often deceptive. A government can dominate politics and still lose the country emotionally. It can impress investors and still alienate citizens. It can weaken rivals and still fail to build legitimacy. That is the unresolved story of this presidency. Bola Tinubu has proven himself a formidable political engineer. He has survived a rough beginning and imposed himself on the national landscape with undeniable force. But a presidency cannot live forever on political cunning, international applause, and elite consolidation. At some point, it must answer the harder questions. Are Nigerians actually better off? Is the country genuinely safer? Is national inclusion real or merely performed? Is reform producing recovery or simply redistributing pain? And is the system being strengthened for democracy or merely tightened for domination? A quiet reminder: Nigeria's future depends on inclusion, security, and real relief, not optics. Those are the questions that will define the road to 2027. For now, Tinubu may look like the man who sees all and controls all, but Nigerian politics has a way of humbling those who mistake command for consent and power for permanence. For deeper analysis across a wide spectrum of geopolitical, economic, and social issues, and to explore a rich archive of thought-provoking articles, I invite you to visit my website at www.oblongmedia.net, where a treasure trove of insightful content awaits. Thank you.